Good evening and welcome to SUTV News. Thank you for joining us. I'm Autumn Ward.
And I'm Melanie Gardner. The state system of higher education recently announced the Board of Governors budget appropriation for the 1995-96 academic year. The board provided Commonwealth with the means to hold tuition for Pennsylvania residents at $3,086 for the next academic year. The governor has also proposed cutting funding to universities to cut construction. This will teach administration to act more efficiently. Students are worried that these cuts, though necessary, will hurt academics at the university. At Shippensburg, students fear that they will miss out on education opportunities if the costs are imposed.
Is not backing this up. Obviously, I really think the underlying issue here is that he may feel Shippensburg University and all the other 14 state schools may have an inferior education as far as what they're offering.
If you have any questions or comments on the budget appropriation, you can call local representative Jeff Coy.
And in world news, the governor of Oklahoma, Frank Keating, spoke at a memorial service for victims of the fatal bombing of the federal building in Oklahoma City. Keating says the tragedy on April 19th shocked America and sickened the world. The president and first lady attended the memorial services. Clinton announced that those found guilty of the bombing will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
The 25th annual National Earth Day celebration took place in Washington, D.C. The event included performers from bands such as Toad the Wet Sprocket and Kathy Mattea. Martha Quinn, a former MTV VJ, along with other MTV VJs, hosted the day-long event. A variety of speakers voiced their cries, urging all of us to become more aware of the condition of our environment.
The Supreme Court says the free speech rights of beer brewers are protected by the Constitution. The court ruled in favor of Coors Brewing Company in a dispute over its practice of listing the alcohol content of its products. The company argued that it was a matter of free speech. The government wanted to keep alcohol content information off beer labels to prevent companies from getting into wars over who has the strongest brew. The ban on beer alcohol content labeling applies in 40 states. Most beer contains 3 to 5% alcohol.
The Senate wrapped up the 94-95 year in the second week of April. Matt Baumgartner has more.
The Student Senate held two meetings. First was on April 11th in the Assembly Theater to approve budgets for SU organizations. The second was on Thursday, April 13th, mainly to induct the new Senate officers, such as Amy Martin and B.K. Fino. On Tuesday, April the 11th, the 5 o'clock Senate meeting was delayed for nearly 2 hours as the Senate was held up in the caucus room debating for more than 3 hours than they expected to on budgets. When the Senate finally showed up, groups such as the APB and SUTV were eagerly awaiting them. Once the meeting was underway, Senate President Doug Beach apologized for the delay, and Treasurer Don Monroe Giffing proceeded to propose the budgets for all Shippensburg University organizations. These budgets would help such organizations as WSYC, the Slate, APB, and SUTV. Thursday the 13th was the last meeting for the old Senate officers. Academic Affairs reported on the Good Friday excuse in the Slate. APB reported on the upcoming Spring Fest and the week leading up to it, which includes a concert headlined by the rock group The Badleys, and then the Spring Fest opening Battle of the Bands. In case of rain, Spring Fest will be held in Higas Fieldhouse. Legislative Affairs has a letter-writing campaign to Governor Ridge about his proposal cutting funds to the state system of higher education. The Hills Committee reported on the future calendar changes for the 1996-1997 year. Such changes would be no Labor Day in exchange for a fall break and the addition of Easter Monday off for travel purposes. With the meeting adjourned, the induction process was next. First, President Doug Beach swore in the new President, Amy Martin. Then the newly sworn-in President, Amy Martin, swore in her officers, Vice President Kim Baker, Secretary Corain, and Treasurer Fino. The new senators for the next year were also sworn in. I had an opportunity to talk with President Baker afterwards.
We have a lot of good ideas, but what we would like to do, the four officers decided that we'd like to hold a workshop, and we'll be holding that within a week here. And what we're going to do is have the Senate as an entire body come up with the goals that we'd like to reach next year. But I can tell you that some of those things will be the recreation area will be one of those things. That's definitely going to be, and we'll also be working on the Assembly Theater renovations for next year. But aside from that, we'd like the entire Senate to come up with our goals for next year.
With these new Senate officers inducted, it remains to be seen how and what they can do for Shippensburg University. For SUTV News, I'm Matt Baumgartner.
SU students take action against hate crimes. SUTV brings you this report.
Earlier this month, a crowd of students gathered to let their voices be heard. A candlelight march against violence and hate crimes was held on the SU campus. The event included a march to each dorm where students who have witnessed violence, rape, or hate crimes were given the opportunity to share their stories. Dr. Libertine, who helped coordinate the march, had this to say about the event.
I was bowled over with all of the students, not only in terms of numbers, and there were quite a few, I guess 100 to 200, although no one stopped to count, but more importantly because so many people spoke up at the open mics.
The event was held to promote awareness about violence and hate crimes. Following the march, volunteers from the counseling department and Women in Need were available for discussion. The event was sponsored by the SU Gay, Lesbian, Bisexual Concerns Committee. Dr. Libertine hopes that another march will take place again next year. For SUTV News, I'm Autumn Ward.
Up next on SUTV News, we have the latest performance from the SU Theater.
And a former captive of a Nazi war camp speaks to SU students.
In August 1942, 13 African Americans arrived on schedule at Montford Point, North Carolina, to begin Marine Corps recruit training. One recruit, Edgar R. Huff, eventually the Senior Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, expressed feelings of a lot of those first men when he said, "I wanted to be a Marine because I had always heard that the Marine Corps was the toughest going. I wanted to be a member of the best organization." These men proved that they could wear the Marine uniform with honor, that they could persevere in the face of adversity. Serving their country, they could turn to their friends and relatives and say, "I am somebody, and I have done something." During the month of February, the United States Marine Corps salutes the contributions of African Americans to its proud and distinguished history, a history that will be remembered for that elite corps of men and women who made it. The few, the proud, the Marines.
A recent car accident instigates a fight for a traffic light at the intersection of Route 30 and Mont Alto Road. Within the last 2 weeks, one woman has died and another is seriously injured. At this time, residents are being told to expect a light by the next year. Area residents would like to see the light installed as soon as possible, and until then, they will continue to fight.
They came to the Capitol with clothes on, but they're lobbying for the right to take them off. Approximately a dozen nudists visited legislatures in an attempt to block a proposed state ban on nudity. The bill establishes a crime called public indecency, which deals mainly with the display of sexuality in front of other people. However, one section of it makes it a crime to engage in public nudity. Tony Egbert, chairman of the Naturist Society, says a proposed ban is too broad and unnecessarily criminalizes the activities of innocent skinny dippers.
Esteemed writer Kurt Vonnegut came to Shippensburg University to speak about his experiences at Dresden, a Nazi war camp during World War II. Vonnegut, whose works included Slaughterhouse 5 and Cat's Cradle, spoke on other issues, including his belief that a strong family is essential to the lives of people today. An audience of over 500 people listened intently. Vonnegut's speech was interesting to those in the communications and history fields. His speech was part of the colloquium series, The World War Created the Impact of World War II.
Recently, it was proven that even little kids can have fun at college. Higas Fieldhouse was overrun with children recently, all attending the 13th Annual Children's Fair. The fair provided all sorts of entertainment geared for kids ages 4 to 12 years old. Booths were set up by students here at SHIP, including fraternities, sororities, residence halls, and other campus organizations. The entertainment included a band, clowns, basketball, petting zoo, finger painting, refreshments, and much more. All the kids had a great time, and many were looking forward to next year's activities.
The SU Theater added another entertaining triumph under their collective belt. Chuck Reese has the story on the one-act festival.
Their advisors, the SU Theater Troupe always impresses the Shippensburg audience. But every year, the troupe proves that they can do it themselves. The One Act Festival is a group of short plays that are student-directed. Running for a week, the festival consisted of 5 plays this year. The plays were The Devil and Billy Markham, directed by Christine Macedo, Flambe, directed by Stephen Hungerford, My Name is Alice, directed by Heather Vickers, Naomi in the Living Room, directed by Aileen Sekula, and My Friend Never Said Goodbye, directed by Timothy Gallagher. The themes ranged from the thought-provoking and dramatic to the silly and ridiculous. Here's how a few of the directors themselves see their plays.
It's basically a play about women and how women react. Tends to be, some of them are kind of stereotypical, but they're not.
She marveled at his fineness.
It's not stereotypical, but it's typical of how women tend to respond to certain issues.
It's just an audience pleaser. The material of the other plays is very interesting, but to me, I like to be entertained. I guess when I go to the theater a lot. I mean, I also like theater to make me think, but I really wanted an entertaining piece because it was so comical and just so light, and it's like, here, enjoy.
When I was tackling this project, there was 2 ways I could have attacked this play. I could have done it the normal way, just have everybody know he's dead right from the beginning. And it could have come out very nicely, and I would have been done rehearsals about 4 weeks ago. But as it is, I wanted to try something a little bit more challenging. And I wanted my actors to kind of tickle that edge of, is he dead, or is she just ignoring him? And even if it didn't do that to everybody, I know that it has done it to some people, which is what I wanted.
Heather Vickers also went on to explain how the One Acts opened up SU Theater for new blood.
I do. I like the fact that it gives people who wouldn't necessarily, like people who don't think they have a shot because they've never done anything. Like many of my cast members have never acted before, and they wouldn't try out for a regular show because they didn't think they would have a shot.
I was nothing special.
The One Acts are especially significant because they prove that the best method of learning is doing. This has been Chuck Reese for SUTV News.
I understood, you had to maintain this macho image with the gun.
is being built in Shippensburg. Sandy Brown has the story.
Construction is underway for a new nursing home in the Shippensburg area. Located on Airport Road, the Shippensburg Healthcare Center will open by the end of the summer. Troy Raines, the administrator of the Shippensburg Healthcare Center, gives the details on what the home will look like.
It'll be a 3-story building. The second and third floors are going to be your designated patient care areas. First floor will be your ancillary services such as administration, dietary, housekeeping, and physical therapy rehab department.
The healthcare center will house up to 125 people. Currently, there are 20 on the waiting list. The nursing home will provide 24-hour services for those 65 and older. Raines tells us how.
We'll provide basic nursing care for the elderly residents of the community, depending on whether or not they're 65 or older, or in some cases you have exemptions from that. You provide basic nursing care to meet their needs, their physician's orders. You have the physician who gives your orders to provide the care and everything.
Raines explains what the healthcare center would like to accomplish for the elderly as well as the community.
We're just hoping to become more of a part of the Shippensburg community and provide the care that we see as a need here. We've been in the business for quite some time, and we're a resident-centered organization. We really like to provide good quality care.
The Shippensburg Healthcare Center will be completed in June. For more information, please contact Troy Raines at 301-790-3650. For SUTV, I'm Sandy Brown.
There was a low brass invasion on campus recently. Sue Kornbauer brings us more on this musical interlude.
Brass conference on April 8th in Old Main Chapel. Guests Sergeant Jan Duga of the Air Force Tuba Quartet and Dr. Marianne Craig joined low brass players from Shippensburg, Dickinson, the Cumberland Brass Quintet, and local schools in the Low Brass Bash. Dr. Marianne Craig, low brass instructor from the College of St. Rose in Albany, New York, explains how she got started on the euphonium.
I started playing, my dad was a bank president, and when he first started working in the bank, in the evenings he would drive the bus for the old firemen's bands, and he didn't know anything about music, but he loved the counter melodies that the baritone horns had, or the euphoniums had, that kind of sang out over the rest of the music. So one day when I was in second grade, he brought it home, and I've been playing it ever since.
Various trombone, baritone, and tuba players participated in a hands-on clinic as the two women offered advice on style, jobs, and breathing. Throughout the day, the participants jammed on arrangements specifically for the brass ensembles. Dr. Miles Cowdery, director of the SU Brass Ensemble and member of the Cumberland Brass Quintet, explains the acquiring of funds for the weekend.
And our student leaders in the brass ensemble contacted some key administrators, including Dr. Orndorff and Jean McBride in the Women's Center, and also both deans, the Dean of Education, Dr. Bartos, and our own Dean, Dr. Golden, and they all contributed monies that were used to fund Dr. Craig's clinic and her performance tomorrow.
Low brass students found the clinic and their time with Dr. Craig and Sergeant Juga to be quite a learning experience.
And I really liked it because I learned a lot of new notes and got to play new music, and it's the first time I've gotten this close to a tuba, and they're really neat.
It's a really good time. We had a chance to meet with Dr. Marianne Craig and the person from the Air Force Tuba Band, so that gave us a really unique experience to meet with these professionals, which you don't get to hear every day, and we really had a good time, and looking forward to having them back.
Sunday caps off the weekend with a concert featuring Dr. Craig along with the Cumberland Brass Quintet, SU Brass Ensemble, and Dickinson Brass. This is Sue Kornbauer for SUTV News, Channel 19.
Stay tuned to SUTV for a trip to the planetarium.
And we'll visit this spring's open house on campus, so don't go away.
You will not believe this. I got my bank statement today. I was beneath my minimum balance, and now they're charging me an arm and a leg for it.
What's your minimum balance?
Well, it's $200, but I mean, I'm a college student. How do they expect me to keep $200 in the bank every month?
Well, I go to Orangetown Bank. I don't have a minimum balance.
You don't?
No, not with the budget checking account.
Yeah, I have that account too. It's cool. No monthly service fee, no minimum balance, and they send me a monthly statement.
Well, what about a MAC card? I cannot live without my MAC card.
Don't worry, you can still use your MAC card, and you won't even have to walk off campus.
Yeah, Orangetown has 2 MAC machines in the code.
What if I have to go to the bank? Will it take me forever to get there?
No. Yeah, Orangetown is right at the corner of King and Penn Streets.
Orangetown sounds great. I think I'm going to go down right now and get a budget checking account.
Orangetown Bank. Budget checking with no minimum balance and no monthly service fee. Orangetown Bank is located at 77 East King Street in Shippensburg.
Shippensburg University is hosting a mathematics conference. The theme of this year's conference is Get Real, Bringing Reality into the Math Classroom. The conference is held for elementary, middle, junior, and senior high school teachers. The conference will feature workshops and presentations by experts in the field of math education, book exhibits, materials from the National Association for Math Teachers, and demonstration of the software of Macintosh. The event is sponsored by the university's Department of Mathematics and Computer Science and the Central Pennsylvania Mathematics Association.
The 1996-97 academic calendar includes a fall break as requested by students. A 4-day weekend is scheduled in October as a fall break. The fall semester will now be 17 weeks long instead of the previous 16 weeks. In addition, Dr. Martin Luther King Day will consist of programs to honor Dr. King's legacy. And a reading day is also scheduled for the Monday following Easter with no classes held.
Shippensburg University recently held an open house for prospective students and their parents. The open house provided students with the opportunity to talk with faculty representing SU's academic departments. Various campus organizations such as WSYC and SUTV were also represented. Tours of campus buildings and residence halls were available. At the opening session, SU President Anthony Sedia addressed the many future college students that gathered in Higas Fieldhouse for the event.
Anything today, we hope that you leave with the reinforced feeling that pursuing an education after high school is very, very important. Finally,
the Cumberland Brass Quintet performed once again at the Old Main Chapel. The concert was part of the brass clinic held at SU recently. The Shippensburg and Dickinson College Brass Ensembles also performed. The concert featured Dr. Mary Ann Craig, an internationally known euphonium performer and music educator. Craig is a professor of music at the College of St. Rose in Albany, New York. Her second solo euphonium recording will be released in June as a CD.
The SU College of Education and Human Services hosted Human Services Week from April 3rd to the 7th. The week featured a variety of programs to help human service providers deal with the social and economic issues they face in their careers. One of the events consisted of a health fair at Higas Fieldhouse. Over 40 organizations were represented at the fair, including Rachel's House and Women in Need.
Easter is a busy time for most of us at Shippensburg University, and it's also a busy time for the constellations. The Roy Dilbert Planetarium, located in the Franklin Science Center, held its annual Easter show. Easter eggs, bunnies, and chocolate bunnies were what we associate with Easter, but the planetarium show showed a different aspect of the Easter holiday. The show is run by Dr. Roddick.
Dr. France, a professor in the psychology department, has written a new textbook along with the help of Michelle Kish. Kelly Seacrest has the report.
Dr. Kenneth France, a psychology professor here at Shippensburg University, and his senior Michelle Kish have published a book. The book is called Interviewing in Human Service Organizations, Fundamental Skills for Gathering Information and Encouraging Productive Change. Dr. France gave examples of interviews in the book.
We do interviews in the course that we use the book in, and with the agreement of the class that summer, in summer of '93, we used the interviews that those students did as the basis then for many of the interviews that ended up in the book.
Michelle Kish did most of the research for the book. Kish enjoyed accomplishing such a great task as putting together a book.
I've heard a lot of people, both students and adults, say, oh, someday I'm going to write a book. But having been through the experience, I realize now how much work goes into a good book, whether it be a textbook or any type of book, and the type of time demands and effort that's required. So if anything came up in the future, another opportunity, or if that was an idea I had to pursue, I would consider it carefully, knowing how much work you need to put into a book that has a good quality.
Some classes are using the book this semester.
These classes are using the book this semester, and we have actually asked for very specific feedback from the students who are using the book, and it's been quite positive.
The main reason the book was written was because the student found conflicting ideas between the textbook Dr. France was using and his ideas that he expressed in class.
It was a summer class, and we had a student, Holly Davis, who came back, I think, about the second day of class, having read the course outline, and said that it was confusing for the professor to have one set of strategies to be taught in the course, and for the text to have a different point of view with regard to some of those strategies.
Check out Dr. Francis and Michelle Kish's book on interviewing, especially if you need some tips for interviewing others.
For SUTV News, I'm Kelly Seacrest.
Cruelty is something we are never short of, but at least there's a group dedicated to limiting the supply. Chuck Reese has the story.
As Americans, we not only deserve our inalienable rights, we often take them for granted. Unfortunately, freedom is something to be defended unrelentingly. Amnesty International has kept up the fight. Through a series of letter-writing campaigns, students join the fight for human rights all over the world, including right here in the United States. Shippensburg chapter of Amnesty International leader Sue Plummer explains their most recent triumph.
We rarely write to our own government, and a lot of people think that human rights abuse doesn't happen in the United States, but it does, especially in the form of the death penalty. So we just wrote a letter last week on behalf of 3 men who are prisoners in Pennsylvania, and they were up for execution. So we wrote to Senator Rick Santorum and Governor Tom Ridge and the Pennsylvania Board of Pardons. Sorry to say that I believe one of the men was executed, but the two others, we wrote for all three of them at the same time, and two of them were granted stays of execution.
The meetings are Wednesday nights at 9:30 in room 315 in the Cub. Anyone is welcome to just come in and lend a hand. One letter to write seems like such a little thing, but when combined with the thousands more from all over the country, it really makes a difference. People find it hard to torture or kill someone when they know the world is watching. If you want to get involved, come to one of the weekly meetings or write for more info at this address: Amnesty International, USA, P.O. Box 37137, Washington, D.C. 20013. This has been Chuck Reese for SUTV News.
Don't go away, Jeff Mack is next with sports.
And we'll have a glimpse of this year's recent Spring Fest, so stay tuned.
For birthdays, anniversaries, or just to say I'm thinking of you, you can't go wrong with flowers. And when you're buying flowers, you can't go wrong with Forget-Me-Not florists. Forget-Me-Not has all you need to make the perfect gift. Balloons and mugs complement your floral arrangement, while corsages and tuxedos complement your look at formals and special occasions. So when it comes to gift giving, don't forget Forget-Me-Not florists, located at 211 East King Street.
And here's Jeff Mack with this week's sports.
Just got a couple minutes for sports, so we're just briefly going to go over some pro football because today was the draft. In pro football news, Penn State had 3 of the top 9 selections in this weekend's draft, with Keyjonna Carter, the #1 overall pick, going to Cincinnati, and of course Kyle Brady and Kerry Collins also finishing in the top 9. And I want to give some thanks to the entire SUTV sports team for making this semester an enjoyable one. Thanks to James Augustine, Herb Soul, Heidi Zink, Matt Bumgarner, and of course Chris Moyer for their help. And I hope to see every one of you guys back next semester. And that's it for sports.
Well, Jeff, keeping with your sports theme, I believe we have some footage of yesterday or recently, the Spring Fest. Let's roll that footage. Spring Fest.
We're going to introduce you to our cheer for our team. #1 SUTV.
Talk to me anymore.
Thank you.
When I come to the door at the end of the day. Don't say you need me. You don't sing me love songs. Hold on.
strategy. I know I'm gonna get it, so I got a strategy now.
Me off your back. Should I stay or should I go now?
Get it a weenie. Oh, they got mustard in here too. We're not getting Diet Pepsi because judging by our tug of war performance, we need to get off the diets and put some more weight on. SUTV! Woo!
That just about sums up our whole semester.
Basically. We'd just like to thank everybody in the news department for their great semester, and we'd especially like to thank Jennifer Burge, who will be leaving us this semester, and she'll be greatly missed. Good night.
Good night.